Hi everyone, we're back for week 4 and this week is about tactile. So we're going to jump right on in. This is our flyer that we've been using. So going from week 1 now up to week 4, and then next week we'll talk about vestibular, and the following week we'll talk about proprioception and interoception. So make sure you come back for those, especially if you don't know what they are.
Okay, so like Beth said, we have the tactile system that we're going over today. Our tactile system is obviously related to our touch, and we interpret the information we receive from the receptors that are on our skin. And so as we encounter an object, we get a feel for it because our central nervous system receives this information from the object that we're touching and helps us to understand the difference between pressure, textures, temperature, and even pain, and any other tactile qualities, and lets us know exactly what we're feeling, which we're going to kind of get into later with a cute little activity. And so also within the tactile system, there is a relationship between touch and our emotional center of our brain, helping us to make decisions and kind of remember little details about things that we may have touched in the past that we have maybe found pleasurable or we did not like at all. And so when you think of the word tactile, what maybe comes to mind is like a child with messy hands, you know, like we have here pictured. But also what comes to my mind, it was like when I was a kid, I would play a game blindfolded, and how you would like, you know, have maybe Beth telling me like take 2 steps forward, but I automatically think of like putting my hands out to touch what's in front of me so that I don't fall. So that just shows you how when we navigate through our everyday lives that we really do rely on this sense. So now this week we kind of did something a little different. So I know we've always talked about like, what does dysfunction look like? Well, I really want to go back and say, okay, well, what does functional look like? And so for this slide, a child that is, you know, has their tactile system intact is considered to be organized because of their appropriate responses to their surrounding sensations. And the child is also not easily distracted by everyday sensations like you and I, such as the way their shirt feels on them or the feel of the breeze hitting their face. They're able to filter out the information that's actually relevant or not relevant. And they effortlessly participate in their activities of daily living, and including bathing, brushing their teeth, washing their hands, and they're able to tolerate clothing, and you don't see any adverse reactions to responses of the tactile system. However, don't get me wrong, you know, not every child, you know, it's not going to touch things. We know that children love to touch things. However, they do it in a controlled manner when their tactile system is intact. So now let's look at dysfunction. So tactile dysfunction may also be known as tactile sensitivity. You may hear that term being thrown around. And what it is it's a form of a sensory dysfunction that causes the sense of touch to be very heightened, leading to like pain or discomfort. So this feeling is very real to the child, what they're feeling. So what you might see are signs of them complaining about the little thing on your sock. They'll say that they can overly feel that and they want to take their shoes off. So clothing is really annoying and it's uncomfortable. They don't like getting their hair cut or combed or brushed or groomed. They dislike messy activities, so like finger painting. They will be very heightened by, you know, just the simple dab of like, you know, we think we're doing a very cute activity, but being aware that you have really heightened their nervous system. And they may appear to also be very picky eaters, and they may not like certain textures, which I'm completely guilty of. But like I was saying, these sensations are very real to the child, and they are very, you know, maybe discomfort. So now we're going to go back over our terms. So over responsive. So this child is going to be overly sensitive to touch and tactile input, and they're going to avoid certain situations. They may have difficulty standing in line with peers to go into the lunchroom or sitting beside other students, and unexpected touch. So that was really going to throw them off. Textures to food, so they may have limited diet. And then certain clothing, so like in the back of your clothes, you have like tags, and you probably have started to see the trend of where they have really just eliminated those completely, which is a very, you know, good idea. And so children who are hypersensitive to tactile information, they avoid getting their face and their hands messy. They steer away from like activities that include, you know, like even in the kitchen, if you wanted them to help you with cookie dough, they're probably like, no, thank you. And then, like I said, even eating these foods. So they may even have difficulty with hygiene tasks, such as like brushing their teeth and bathing, and like I was saying earlier, and they struggle with the fabric. So you may even see an issue with troubling with short sleeve to long sleeves, just in those seasonal transitions. And then, they may even want to wear like a sweatshirt, or they like the zip leg pants. It's just all the things that we take for granted and we don't really put a lot of attention to. You may see your child react in this way. So other children are going to be under-responsive and have the opposite experience of what I just previously described. They may seek out more tactile input to give their body what they need. The children love to be touched, so they love to hug, they like to sit close, so they may be in like your personal space, and they like to seek out different textures. So they may be plundering through the house, which, you obviously have to worry about safety in that aspect, but, and they may fiddle with objects a lot, but that's just giving their body what they need. So sometimes giving them a fidget that is more appropriate, which we'll get into later, may be the key to that. And they may do too much pressure when they're writing. So you may have a teacher that says they're breaking their pencil every day. That's another sign they enjoy rough and tumble play. And they may be rough with peers or siblings. So that's another sign. They may throw themselves on the floor. So, just be aware. They're not hopefully going to hurt themselves, but maybe they're just trying to give their body that input that it's desired. And then now we will go into a case.
So we have some case studies. It's 3 children, so we'll walk through all of them and then debrief a little bit about them. So it'll be the next few slides. So the whole family has gathered at a restaurant to celebrate Grandma and Grandpa's 50th anniversary. 3 of the children have tactile dysfunction. So this is kind of what Lexi was talking about. So you'll see what tactile dysfunction looks like in the next 3 kids. So Amy is 4, and she is over-responsive to touch stimuli. When Grandpa reaches for a hug, she shrinks back to the wall. Wringing her little hands, she anxiously watches family members bustling around the room. A cousin walks past, lightly brushing Amy's skirt. Amy shrieks, "Ouch! She touched me! She's trying to hurt me!" Her father looks up from a conversation and moves quickly to comfort Amy. Having learned to be prepared for potentially stressful situations, he pulls out a squeezy ball and she takes it gratefully. Fidgeting with the toys calm her for now. So what we see here is that she's over-responsive. Just a simple brush to her was painful. So us brushing up against people, we may not notice that, could cause this reaction, but for someone who's over-responsive, it reaches that, heightened state very quickly. But however, her dad was prepared. They know that she's over-responsive to tactile stimulation, and they had that squeezy ball. So this was a great outlet for her to calm down in that moment and get what she needed to, be appropriate in the situation. So that sensory modulation and all that stuff. So the next one, Teddy is 6 and craves touch sensations. Like a bull in a china shop, he tears around the restaurant, bumping and crashing into everything and everybody. Although his mother attempts to capture him, he breaks away and collides with a waiter. They both lose their balance, and the tray of piggies in the blanket falls on Teddy's head. Teddy guffaws, so he, giggles, scrambles to his feet, and lurches towards a large fish tank. He clambers into a chair, shoves the cover off the tank, plunges his arm in, and swishes his hand in the water. Grandma finally reins him in, corrals him securely on her lap. He presses his head against her and begins to calm down. So little Teddy here, he has a lot going on. He seems to be very rambunctious. He's craving that movement sensation, which we'll get into next week with proprioception, so hold on to that thought. But he's also seeking that tactile sensation. He's bumping into people to meet that threshold. He's putting his hand in the water because he likes the way that the water is around his skin. He, is just running around, just trying to seek that threshold. And then Grandma finally gets him and gives him deep pressure, and that's what helps him calm down because his threshold is finally met. So that's kind of what's going on with Teddy. And then we have Ethan, who is 10, who has tactile discrimination. He and an older cousin slip away from the relatives and go to an arcade next door. The cousin asks to borrow a quarter to play a video game. Eagerly, Ethan gropes in his pocket for a coin and offers it to his cousin. His cousin laughs. "This is a measly dime. Can't you feel the difference between a quarter and a dime?" Ethan blushes. Of course, he can see the difference when he looks at the coin, but feeling it is another matter. He hopes he'll get it right next time. So this is called stereognosis, so the ability to be able to tell with touching stuff without seeing stuff to know what it is. So we're going to jump right in to our next activity, which is a video called the steamroller. So this is an activity that you can do at home. We have a video of it that we're going to share with you instead of us trying to simulate it here. But essentially, it's called the steamroller. I've also heard it called the rolling out a cookie. Also with it can be used with a ball, or you can use it with your hands if you do light pressure. So something that's important to note here is that you're not putting all of your weight through the ball. You are trying to, just give them the pressure and the threshold that they need to meet that threshold. So you're doing this as a fun activity to give them that deep proprioception input. So we'll just show you the video.
This activity is called steamroller. It works on regulation through deep pressure proprioceptive input. At home, having the child lie on their back on carpet or soft mats and cushions help regulate pressure. The softer material they lie on will enable more pressure through the ball. Parents start at the feet with the exercise ball and roll it over with their hands, applying firm pressure so that contact is always made with the child's body. Working your way up over the legs, stomach and torso, but avoiding the face is recommended. Asking the child if they would like more or less pressure is very important. Therapists use their whole body to exact the needed pressure for the child in therapy. However, this is only recommended under the therapist's supervision initially to ensure safety for the child and parent.
All right, so he mentioned that they use the whole body because it's a therapeutic and a therapy personnel doing it, but for the purposes of this, we suggest that it just be your hands and not too much pressure. Let's see. So this was just a fun video that we showed you, and like I was saying, just to recap, he puts his whole body weight through it because he's a therapist and he knows how much pressure the child needs or wants in that moment. But when you're doing it at home, the lighter the better, unless your child asks for more, because you don't want to potentially injure them or cause anything to happen, negatively, or for them to have a negative reaction. This is to help regulate their system rather than try to cause an outburst or something like that. This is also a good way to do in a sleeping bag. So if you don't have a yoga ball at home, or if you don't want to do it with your hands, you can roll them up into a sleeping bag and give pressure through that. That way there's a medium between your child and your hands. That way you're not giving too much pressure. So that's a fun one to do as well. All right, so we have another learning activity. So remember, I mentioned stereognosis and identifying things with your hands without seeing, and this is what this learning activity is really targeting. So what's in the box? So you can do this at home. You can get random things from the house. We have a bunch of things, but I'm not going to say yet because Lexi doesn't know what's in the box. So you can include various textures, sizes. You have them reach into the box without looking, so you can either blindfold or just have your child look away and have them describe what they're feeling and then try to guess what the item is. And then once they guess, they can see it. So this is a good way to practice that tactile discrimination if your child is having challenges with that. Another fun game that I've heard of and we used in the therapy clinic was called Ned's Head. So this was, you had index cards and you reach inside Ned's head and you try to find that item. So that's a good way, if this activity is too easy for your child, as a way to scale it up. So have a list of items, have them choose one off the list, and then try to get that specific item out of the box. So we're gonna try it with Lexi. Okay, all right, here's our lovely box. All right, let's see what you can find in there. Okay, what are you feeling?
It feels like a rubber band, but yeah, kind of, ooh, it's sticky.
Yeah, so it's a TheraBand. So this was it's essentially a tense rubber band.
Oh, and there was a rubber band.
Oh, so there was a rubber band also in it. So she got 2 for 1 there.
Yes, which I feel pressure, resistance between, and then I feel like the stickiness or how your hand feels when it's sweaty.
Awesome. We're going to do a couple more items. So let's see what else you can find in there.
Okay, this is soft. It's squishy, and it fits in my hand, so it feels a little round. A ball.
Yeah, good job. So this is a little basketball, and it's got little bumps on it too, so it gives some extra tactile sensation. This is a good one. Back to the case study with Amy, she needed a little ball to help calm down to meet that tactile threshold. She was over, you know, so she'd already met it, so she needed something to calm down. So these are great for that as well. Okay. All right, let's see what else you can find in there.
Okay, this feels like it has a brush on the end, like a paintbrush or something. Because this is hard and this is soft. Paintbrush? Oh, I was right.
Yay, it was a paintbrush. All right, we're gonna do 2 more.
Okay. Ooh, feels like hair. Ooh. Let's see, I have a toy.
It's a My Little Pony. So it includes plastic and then also the hair. So that gives a lot of different tactile stimulation with the 2 different textures. So that's a fun one to try to guess.
Yes.
All right, last one.
This feels really soft, almost like a stuffed animal, but it does have like a little tacky feel to it too. Oh, it is.
It is a stuffed animal. So this one is also a keychain. So it had a little plastic piece on the end, like you put to your book bag and all that stuff. So that was a good one. Just to let you see what else is in our box, we had some keys. So some kids have some sensitivities to metal feeling because metal feels very cold and all that. So that's a good one. We had a tennis ball. This gives a lot of like the velvet feeling. So some kids are sensitive to that or really like it. We had a little piece of a sponge. So that gives various tactile information. And some other ones that I wanted to point out was a cotton ball. So this is a lot of times around the house, but it is also fun to do things with. And then we had a quarter and a penny. So just like in the case, you know, he had challenges discriminating between what a dime and a quarter was, or a nickel and a quarter. So it's good to practice those skills. And a lot of times we have coins laying around the house or in our wallet. So they're good things to put in the box for them to try to guess. So we hope that you incorporate these activities at home. It's easy to do. You use whatever is at your house. And that way you don't have to pay for anything to do these activities. All right, so we always provide some activities at home, so here's a nice list. Some sensory bins. We didn't have one of those today, but if you go to a therapy clinic, you're more than likely going to find multiple of these. So you can use sand, pastas, beans, water. You can use shredded paper, cotton balls, anything. You can have different mediums. So in this, you can have items hidden and they have to search for it, kind of like what we just did with our eyes closed, and try to explain what it is with various materials. Or you could also use spoons if your child has troubles with the scooping motion. These are great ways to practice that scooping motion to try to get excuse me, those toys out. Texture games are really fun. So kinetic sand is a good example. Crafts of various materials like burlap, cotton balls. So you can paint with cotton balls. Or even sandpaper, mesh, all that stuff. So you can get creative with those. Pinterest is a great way to look up different activities with that. Shaving cream, this is a fun one that we use in the clinic a lot. So you can use this on your bathroom wall, like in the tub when they're taking a bath. This is a good way to get messy, but also a good way to clean it up really easy when you're in the shower. So you can practice doing shapes in them, letters if they're at that age, or draw pictures, you know, whatever you think your child wants to do. A good way to get tactile involved into bath time, other than just water play. Fidget toys. So these are good for kids to have an outlet. So for me personally, while we're sitting in class, I have my little hair tie and I fidget with it. And then when I'm not, I just put it back on my wrist. So that's my fidget in class. It helps me pay attention and seek whatever that threshold I need is. But they make a lot of fun ones. New ones that we've seen are the little ones you poke. And one of our classmates has one on her keychain. So they make them the keychain level or the big ones that they can poke. Fidget toys are good for kids to have that outlet, just like with Amy in the case. Yes. Legos are really tactile because they have the bumps. So those are fun to play with. Finger painting, messy play. So that's always a good example of how to incorporate, instead of using a paintbrush, use their finger. Or like I said a couple minutes ago, you can use a Q-tip or cotton ball to paint to them. That gives some additional tactile information. Playing with Play-Doh or clay is a good one. You can have them practice rolling it out, or you can have, make them make letters out of it. And then lotion massages after bath time. So you can incorporate this into your natural routine. So if they like to have that deep pressure, this is something that you could simply add. You can massage their arms or their legs or their shoulders. So that could be a fun way for y'all to do it as a family. Weighted blankets. So weighted blankets are not suggested under 3 unless your therapist says that they are okay. So I caution you from going out to the store and just buying a weighted blanket for your child. Make sure you talk to your therapist about what the specific weight needs to be and all that, just to avoid too much tactile sensation and too much weight. There's typically schedules for weighted blankets on how often they should use them and all that. So again, make sure you talk to your therapist. Some modifications that they can use. So tags, Lexi mentioned, a lot of clothing brands now are offering tagless options. So instead of having the tag, it's just printed inside the shirt. So that's awesome. A lot of kids like compression garments. So if they need that threshold, then having compression shorts or like the Under Armour shirts that give extra compression may be a good modification. They make seamless clothing. So kids who are very over responsive may prefer that seamless. Socks and washcloths are a big texture. So when you're given a bath, either let them choose what washcloth texture they want, or either just apply soap directly to the skin instead of using that. Also, some kids who are over responsive may want to choose the texture of their clothing. They may prefer, like for younger kids, warm wipes during changing routines, and wear tight-fitting clothes. They may want to play independently. So just considering all these things when you are making activities at home or in the community.
And so we wanted to put this little tactile cheat sheet to kind of just give you a full summary of what we have gone over, because I know that it ends up being a lot of information, but to have it all on one little sheet is very nice. So you're more than welcome to print this off and, hang it up in your house or put it on like a cork board, whatever works for you. So as you can see, we talk about the tactile avoiders who their threshold is met very quickly. And then you have the seekers who they need their body to get those needs met. So as you can see on the avoiders, they're going to avoid textures in clothing and they get distressed. They're extremely ticklish. They avoid hugs, physical contact, large crowds, and they may even refuse to walk barefooted because you get a lot of input through your feet. And then tactile seeking behavior, so they're going to prefer the tight clothing, or they may prefer a certain temperature, or they're not aware that they're even being touched by someone, and they may even have a high pain tolerance. Not me, but and then at the bottom are some activities. So some like tight squeezes, which is something you can just kind of incorporate at home, and like the girl in the case where she got, the squeeze ball, but even just like giving that hug to where it's not very like it's a distractor or it's very noticeable that she needs that. It's just like, oh, you're her mom and you're hugging her, and it's a very normal situation. And then like the sensory bins filled with rice, always having maybe one of those in your pantry so that the child can verbalize that that's what they want at that time. And then like we were saying, the finger painting, any cooking or anything that you can just incorporate into your daily lives.
We have one more just to wrap it up. What tactile is. It's the system in our sense for touch. Our skin gives us information about pressure, texture, pain, temperature, all this information. So then it gives a little quick tips and quick wins for activities to do, the messy play, the sensory bins, fidget tools, and swimming and water play. These are all great activities that you can incorporate at home, and they're fairly cost effective too, so you're not having to go out and have to buy all these things too. So if you have any questions for us, please feel free to email us at the email listed below, or feel free to contact us on our Facebook, and we hope that you join us next week.
Thank you.